Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk podcast slash YouTube slash We Do It All. As always, I'm your host, John. Very happy to be here. My boy Jay, his over there in the six. How you doing, my dog?
Oh man, not again. What up, Jay? Been a while, but feel like a long time coming because we've been doing all these player interviews for a while and everything this whole summer, but we haven't really got a chance to sit down and talk about the league for a while. But I'm doing good, brother, and just over here in Toronto. I feel like these days, Jay, like in the summer, especially like living in a place where you got like four seasons and stuff, you got to really take advantage of these summer like hot weather days because when the winter comes, it comes.
It
It,
comes. How,
it
how,
comes in a
how,
it comes in a wave.
how hot is it out there right now, Jay?
It's actually cooler today, the day we're recording, but it's been like in the 80s, 30s, I guess, for our folks over in who know like Celsius, but like Fahrenheit, it's been like 80. But it's humid. The thing about Toronto is real humid. But
Man,
uh, but yeah, Jay,
man,
what about you?
over here,
How you doing
over
over
here
there
in
in the
Cal,
Bay?
over here in Cali, Jay, over here in the Bay, it's Labor Day. Like it was Labor Day weekend, so today is like a little Labor Day and all that. But it's like record breaking heat. It's gonna be 113 today. At
Woo!
least where I live in Antioch, California, it's gonna be 113. It's absurd, absurd,
Yeah.
absurd.
That's crazy. Antioch's always like over East Bay is always a little hotter than
Yeah,
like
like
Oakland
Brentwood,
and San Francisco.
Oakley,
Yeah,
all those. Yeah,
yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
burning up, Jay. But you
Jeez.
know what else is burning up, Jay? The NBA, Jay. That's why we here and we got to talk
Facts.
about all this craziness going on in the league. I mean, you know what we like to do over here. We like to jump straight into it. But before we do that, all the family at home, we would appreciate if you guys could go ahead and smash that subscribe button, smash that like button, leave us a nice comment down below. And we are on the road to 200 subscribers before the end of the year, before the end of 2022. So if the family out there, tell your cousins, tell your friends, tell your aunties, tell your mom, tell everybody to subscribe, man. Exactly, huh, Jay?
Facts.
Exactly, man. So let's just jump straight into it, my brother. I think we wouldn't be a real NBA talk show or NBA show, or we wouldn't be real hoop heads if we didn't talk about that Donovan Mitchell trade first, Jay. So we haven't. I mean, we talked a little bit on the phone about it, but Jay, air out your feelings. How are you feeling about this? Who won? Are the Cavs really contenders now? Talk to me, Jay. Talk to me.
Yeah, I think when we first of all, huge move for
Huge.
both teams. I feel like in Danny Ainge's head for Utah, he got all the picks that he wants. Like for him, it's a win. It's clear that the direction they're moving, they're tanking, they're getting all the young assets they can get. And from there, and we were talking about it earlier before the show, before the recording about Utah and how I don't think they're done because they over there they got Bogdanovich still on the roster, Mike Conley, and Jordan Clarkson, three guys who I don't see them starting the season with because those are three role players that really any contending team could use. Like Mike Conley, solid for all his injury problems, solid backup starting caliber point guard. I should say starting caliber point guard in the NBA. And then Bojan Bogdanovic,
You
your
know what he do?
Lakers, a team, yeah, an absolute sniper, a guy who can space the floor. So I look for a team like the Lakers who should be really interested in getting him because perfect guy to pair with a guy like LeBron, point guard who can get those type of guys open and would thrive in that offense. So I see him being on the move, and then Jordan Clarkson, just a scorer off the bench. Any team could use a six man like that. So I look, Utah's not done, is what I'm trying to say. So I think it's a win in the direction that they're going from their angle. And then on the Cavs side, Jay, I just see this as a win now move. It's clear that they're trying to do it, I don't see them this move putting them over the top as a serious contender. And when I say serious, I mean that they're going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, like a lock to be in there. I don't see them that, but I see this move as number one. This is a team who was one game away from the playoffs last year. This for sure makes them, in my mind, a playoff team. So a top six seed, whether they're a top four seed remains to be seen. But I mean, I love the move. You get the score that you need at the shooting guard, which they didn't really have. They're playing Isaac Okoro there, who's not certainly not on the level of Donovan Mitchell, but Donovan Mitchell's an all-star, man. Anytime you can bring in an all-star, and I guess they got a little bit bigger technically, Jay. He's an inch taller than Colin Sexton, so they kind of doubled down and said we're gonna be a dynamic scoring, playmaking backcourt with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, which I love. And then while you're still small, I think the fact that you have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen still there, which you got a couple of years ago. Kobe Altman's just been doing a phenomenal job there, but he got hit those two guys, and you still have that paint protection while you're giving up the size in your front and your backcourt. You have arguably like two of the biggest, one of the biggest front courts in the NBA in those two, and you have those guys to funnel to your shot blockers and Evan Mobley, Jay. And then last point I'll make is I look at this deal and I say, if you're the Cavs and how far you're going to go, that's why I'm not sure how good they're going to be. Is number one, is a three. Who's going to be that three? And not, they need a knockdown 3-and-D guy. Is it going to be Isaac Okoro? Is he going to take that third year step that they need him to take? Remains to be seen. And then the key factor here is going to be Evan Mobley. Is he going to take a huge leap? Is he going to take that leap in his second year? If he can do that, then I have them as a lock, as a top 4 seed, man. But Jay, a lot of unpack here. What do you think this deal does for the Cavs, man?
A lot to unpack, but real quick, Jay. But before I give my thoughts on it, let me ask you though: between Jazz and Cavs, who won though? In your opinion?
That's a tough question because I would say, for what each is trying to do, they won. I don't know if there's a clear winner, but if you look at it from what you got, I think the Cavs did give up a lot of young assets. So, but the Utah's wants that, right? So they won in that sense. You got your draft picks. You got Lauri Markkanen, who I actually don't even think might be on the move as well. I don't know if they're going to be keeping him because a lot of teams could use a shooter and a big body like Lauri Markkanen on a contending team. But then you look at it from just purely a standpoint of who got the best player in the deal, it would be Utah. And then I forgot to even mention, Jay, Colin Sexton. I think he was a good addition, but I honestly don't even think he's going to stay in Utah because I think a lot of contending teams could use him because he's a certified bucket getter, man. Dude's an animal. But I don't know necessarily if he's in the long-term plans for Utah, who's just trying to stack up on their assets and rebuild over there. But I just think it's tough to answer because it's picture of what each team needs, right?
Absolutely.
Rebuild, and then a team who's clearly now trying to contend.
Absolutely. No, I'm right there with you, Jay. I think that was a perfect way to answer it. The Cavs got exactly what they needed. They needed to go win now after having that amazing season last year that really surprised everybody. I mean, we know what my guy Evan Mobley do. I do agree with you on that. How far the Cavs go this next year is how much of a jump Evan Mobley is going to take. Shout out his brother Isaiah Mobley too for getting on the roster. I think that's super dope. But what I look at it, at least from when I first saw this, from the Jazz perspective, I just feel like you could have gone another direction. And like I've said this to you on the phone, you should have did a trade with the Heat, man. I think that the Miami Heat would have been perfect. You could have not only got more assets, but you could have got a player like Tyler Hero. You could have got a player like Victor Oladipo. You could have got a player like the Caleb Martin. Some of these young players that the Heat have, I think they could have gone that direction because I mean, you're like how you said, Lauri Markkanen doesn't fit the timeline. If they're gonna go for that Victor Wembanyama, whatever that guy's name is, if they're gonna go for him, like Lauri Markkanen doesn't fit the roster, doesn't fit the timeline. Colin Sexton, good player. No, I totally agree with you. Bucket getter, dog, but is he a starting guard in the league, or is he more of a backup? But yeah, Jay, a little bit of technical difficulties, but it's all good. A little bump in the road. We'll keep it pushing. But Colin Sexton, I like him, but is he really a starting guard in this league? I don't think so, but also hasn't really had the chance. He was been playing behind Garland, and then when Garland kind of took off, that was when Colin Sexton was out this last season. But I just feel like they might the Cavs might have gave up also a bit too much in marketing, because I really like that Twin Towers, to be real with you. I like they were kind of going back to back in like 2010, 2009, when teams used to run with the 4 and the 5, where like, the Twin Towers, right? I think of like the Lakers with Paul Gasol and Andrew Bynum, like that kind of style, man. But to be real with you, Jay, I think it doesn't even make the Cavs a contender. It doesn't even like how you said, I don't think they're going to be better than a 76ers with James Harden coming back. They're definitely not going to be better than the Bucks. They're definitely not going to be better than the Celtics. I don't think they're going to be better than the Bulls. It's nitpicking with the Toronto Raptors. I mean, they're similar. They're very similar to the Toronto Raptors this year. I like that. Hey, Jay, as a matter of fact, tell the family what you told me the other day. I think that was a great analogy about Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley and all that.
Yeah, that's a good point about I definitely don't think it makes them better than those teams. It also is interesting though, in the Central Division, those are probably three playoff teams now, with the Milwaukee Bucks, the Chicago Bulls, and now the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that's a pretty stacked division in the East. But then what I had said, Jay, for our listeners, was that between the Toronto Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers, two teams who are pretty close for a majority of the season in terms of seedings, the Raptors were able to pull away late in the year and establish themselves as a solidified, fifth seed in the Eastern Conference last year. But what I had said was, the jump and the difference between the two teams is, one, the rookie of the year, Scotty Barnes, his leap versus Evan Mobley and his second year leap, who was the runner up, obviously, for the rookie of the year. And I think whoever of those two makes a bigger leap, either the Toronto Raptors or the Cleveland Cavaliers will be the better team and the higher seed in the regular season, but because of that. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be a storyline throughout the season, who takes a bigger leap. And I'm pro Scotty Barnes. I think he was extremely deserving of that. And I just think that they have more versatility 1 through 5 in terms of their lineup. And I think just Nick Nurse uses those guys like extremely well. And I think Barnes, if I had to put my money on it right now, I think Barnes would take the bigger leap, Jay. But what do you think of the
Jay,
two?
you already know.
I know you're pro Mobley. I know you're pro Mobley. Jay's the biggest Evan Mobley guy, future superstar guy I've ever seen.
I love Evan Mobley, Jay. I mean, I think he fits exactly what the NBA prototypical NBA player is moving toward. That 7-foot dude who will put it on the ground, who could shoot the ball, who could play some defense. He could slide his feet. I mean, I love Evan Mobley, but I cannot lie, man. Scotty Barnes has been turning into a monster. And I mean, I think Scotty Barnes is the reason that the Raptors took that jump last season and, ended up as eventually surpassing the Cavs and, taking that 5th seed. But I mean, it's gonna be a great storyline, and they're gonna be tagged for the rest of their careers. They're gonna be like tagged together. Like when you talk about Mobley, you're gonna have to talk about Scotty and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. In fact, and when I look at it too, between the two, and I look at their mentality, and you see their style of play, like grit and grind, is what I think of Scotty Barnes, like a workhorse. He's going to do a skill of the two players. If you're looking from strictly just a basketball player, right? I would say he's a better shooter of the two right now, and just kind of a Kevin Durant kind of feel for the game, straight out of USC, right? And Scotty Barnes, obviously from Florida State. And I just feel like right now, for Evan Mobley, he hasn't proven to me that he's the aggressor. He's the attacker right now. I feel like he's more of a passive feel, whereas Scotty Barnes is in your shit. He's ready to go. He's got that dog mentality. And it's part of the culture that's been built. Nick Nurse guy as well. But I think even coming out of college, he was just war ready right now. So that's why I give him the edge too in terms of overall mindset, Jay, of the two. But Jay, real quick, we need to talk about another deal that Adrian Wojnarowski reported on that Utah apparently turned down. And while I don't know if this is true, I want to see what you feel about this deal. So Adrian Wojnarowski said at the start of the trade talks in July, New York offered Utah a package, a Donovan Mitchell, they offered a package for Donovan Mitchell that included RJ Barrett, Obi Toppin, Mitchell Robinson, and 3 unprotected first round draft picks, Jay. The Jazz turned that down. And then Robinson signed a $60 million extension. That is, the Knicks signed him to a $60 million extension after they turned that deal, Jay. And then they obviously re-signed RJ Barrett to the bag for 5 years, I believe, 120 mil, or 4 years, 100 mil. But Jay, what do you think? Utah should have accepted that deal? How you feeling about that deal, man?
I mean, that's better than what they got, in my opinion. I mean, you're telling me RJ Barrett, Obi Toppin, and a shot blocker like Mitchell Robinson. I'm taking that every day over Colin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen and a couple of picks, to be honest with you, because that's just way more wiggle room to then if you want to play with those players, like as far as trading them, or if you want to say RJ, I think RJ Barrett's my age. He's like 22, 23. He's a very young cat. He can fit the timeline of Victor Wembanyama. You know what I'm saying? Obi Toppin, I believe he's a year younger than me, so I could fit also in that timeline. In my opinion, the Utah Jazz definitely shot themselves in the foot by doing that and then taking this. But I mean, unless Donovan Mitchell said, "I don't want to go to New York," which could be the case. You know, maybe they're doing right by him, but as far as like if you're looking just organization stands point, I think they should have took that in my opinion. What do you feel? You agree or you disagree?
Yeah, I think that's a great deal. I think RJ Barrett, two-way wings and guys of that size and that build are so hard to come by. So anytime you can get a guy like that, those are the type of players that teams look to build around now, right? Your franchise centerpiece. I'm not sure if RJ Barrett is going to be that guy, but he could definitely be a second, third option right now. He showed flashes, he showed glimpses, and he definitely improved on in his third year last year with the Knicks. So I think he's only going to get better, especially as he progressed and was really, after a certain point, I think in January, February, you could argue he was the number one option after Julius Randle kind of took a step back after his most improved campaign in 2020, 2021 season. So I think you definitely, if you're Utah, you make that deal. But it's like now we hear that after this deal happened, you know, New York's reporting that they turned down this offer that is Utah. So I don't even know if this is necessarily true or it's something that the New York front office is saying to like kind of cover their asses, right? And say that they made this deal to Utah and the Jazz were the ones to turn it down. So it's looking like they couldn't, instead of like making the fact that they couldn't get a deal done or couldn't come to agreement with Utah. So maybe hearsay, I don't know. But if the deal was there, I think Utah should have definitely taken it because you still get the draft picks and you get 3 great young players in Obi Toppin, Mitchell Robinson, and RJ Barrett. So
man, I'm right there with you, my brother. The Utah Jazz. We really gonna have to talk to our guy Greg from the Unsalvageable, man, to let us know how you feeling, man. But for now, Jay, we're gonna keep it pushing and get to another team who had a pretty big move this offseason. The Lakers, man. They traded THT for Patrick Beverly. Clear win now move. I know you hit me up right when that happened. As a Lakers fan, I mean, I'm happy because it's a win now move. LeBron is, but how many more years of LeBron dominance do we have? I mean, people said he would have been done a couple of years ago, but he's gonna keep going. But so THT doesn't fit the timeline. I absolutely get it. Clear win now move. I like it. Patrick Beverly is just a player you can take on any team, right? Like anyone wants to just a dog that's just gonna play defense and get run up and down the court, dive on loose balls. So that was cool. Say a little sad to see THT go, but he also wasn't really panning out to the player that a lot of Lakers fans thought that he would pan out to. Another move from the Lakers that I liked was also getting Lonnie Walker. I think that's a perfect a perfect like scoring guard for them. I know I kind of relate back to Dennis Schroeder. I liked him a lot. And he was asking for a lot of money for that. He can go, but to get a player like Lonnie Walker, bouncy, able to put the ball in the basket when LeBron's not out there, I like that move a lot. But Jay, talk to me real quick about those moves, and then we'll get into it. They had a little bit of some minor moves as well too. But talk to me about how those two moves and how you feeling about them.
Yeah, and just a little addition to that deal, which I think is a little bit of a loss for the Lakers, was Stanley Johnson. I really loved his addition to the Lakers after the season, because like another one of those guys, like I mentioned with RJ Barrett, but I would say Stanley Johnson is a better defender right now, is because that's something that he prides himself on, the defensive end. But he's one of those two-way guys when he's knocking down the shot, which he struggles with a little bit. That's why he's been in and out of the league. But I think they're going to miss him on the wing, because he was a capable wing defender to put in another big body to guard another team's kind of best perimeter offensive player. But I think they're going to miss him. But yeah, you look at THT for Patrick Beverley, if we're just kind of doing one for one, man. On the year last year, THT was shooting 41% from the field, which you want to see higher, especially with his athleticism ability to get to the rim. I think we saw him settling a lot, man. But with a 3-point field goal percentage of 26%, and then you flip it over to Patrick Beverley, who shot similar from field goal percentage was 40%, and then from the 3-point line, this is with a huge jump, Jay, 8% better at 34% clip from the outside. And who are you pairing him with next year? And that's LeBron James, Jay, one of the best passers in the NBA, consistently a great playmaker who can see the whole floor. And he's just another spacer, floor spacer, which the Lakers need, right? Especially if you look at the Lakers, a guy like who they need to shoot better, which is Anthony Davis, Jay, as you know, who hasn't shot the ball well since he left the bubble. But to have around those guys, Patrick Beverley now, I think is a great addition. And then, like you mentioned, when he's at his best, he's able to roam around, be a defensive pest, which any team could use, and especially the Lakers, who were struggled defensively. So you're bringing him in, and another character guy, another great character guy, as you saw in Minnesota, and which the Lakers kind of struggled with their identity last year. And what a better person to bring in from a basketball standpoint. I don't know about Patrick. I'm not talking about the dude's off court antics and anything like that, because I'm in question of those at times. But I'm from a pure basketball standpoint, Patrick Beverley is a great guy to have on the floor for the Lakers. So I love that move. And I don't think they're done. Like I mentioned, Utah, I'm expecting them to maybe get one of those veteran pieces, the Bojan Bogdanovic, maybe even Mike Conley, if the Utah's willing to just eat Westbrook's contract potentially and get the first round picks and the picks that the Lakers need to give up, because it's win now mode. You got a 38-year-old LeBron James in still playing great basketball, and then Anthony Davis in his prime. So it's clear win now mode with this move, but I'm interested to see what other moves and corresponding moves that they make. Maybe it's getting Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, which I think would be a great move for the Lakers. But as we know, Jay, last thing on this, the Lakers season is contingent upon two things and two players. Number one, Anthony Davis, if he's healthy and he's able to play, and LeBron James, if he's healthy and he's able to play, the Lakers are simply going to be contenders just because of that. Don't matter if they've got the mailman, if they've got a dude off the street playing in that lineup. If Anthony Davis and LeBron James are healthy and they're playing basketball, the Lakers got a shot. So
man.
that's all. That's a fact.
And Anthony Davis, man, as a Lakers fan, I'm personally like starting to get a little frustrated, man, because it was just it was. I feel like I'm not on the court, but I feel like I could see when somebody not going 100. I've seen him the 2020 year versus this last year. I know he dealt with some injuries and all that, but just also wasn't this. Never took the smartest shots. So yeah, I'm right there with you, Jay. It definitely depends on Anthony Davis and whether he decides to bring it or not, man. Because when he decides to bring it, he's like, I think, arguably a top 3 center in the league. But is he going to bring it? That's the biggest question. So which is why I like the Lakers. A little bit of background moves. They got Thomas Bryant. He was back on the Lakers. He's been dealing with some injuries as well too. So great to have him back. And then Dwight Howard. I know he hasn't came back yet, but hopefully he comes back as an unrestricted free agent. But hopefully the Lakers are able to get him to come back, man. But yeah, the Lakers gotta go all in now. Hopefully get rid of Westbrook, man. But but that's the life in Lakers land right now.
Yeah, man. What do you think about the Westbrook and Patrick Beverly? We saw LeBron saying we saw him respond to that tweet about I can't wait for him to shut all these haters up. And then Patrick Beverly he said, yeah, I can't wait either. But what do you think about that dynamic of them having beef in the past, right? Like we know Patrick Beverly injured Westbrook on reaching in and hurt his knee a while back. They've knowingly had beef. Westbrook has said he's just out there running around. That famous quote, he's just out there running around. He don't let him fool you. What do you think about that dynamic in the locker room if Westbrook's eventually is going to stay on the team?
Man, if Westbrook stays, I think as LeBron, as the coach, the second Patrick Beverly gets in LA, go to dinner, go meet them up, be like, look, as 2 grown men with the goal of winning, you guys need to squash this, handle it. If you guys really have beef, if it was just for the media, okay, that's fine. If you guys really have beef, you really don't like him, you guys need to handle it because you guys need to talk it out. I think there's only 2 players in NBA history that were able to really not like each other and win, and that was Kobe and Shaq. But that's because that's Kobe and Shaq, right? Like, and they were able to put their differences aside because they knew the bigger goal at hand. And Patrick Beverly and Russell Westbrook are far from Kobe and Shaq. So I think that if they're going to play on the team, man, you can't have a disliking for them. That doesn't have to be your best friend. That it doesn't have to, you don't have to go get dinner with him every day, but squash that beef. Make sure you guys are cool moving forward because you can't win in the league when you got teams like you got great organizations like the Golden State Warriors. Everybody love each other from top to bottom. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to beat a team that got chemistry like that. So I think you absolutely got to squash that out. But as a Lakers fan, I'm hoping that the Jazz eat up Russell Westbrook's contract and Lakers are able to pull in a player like Mike Conley, a point guard to run a team so LeBron doesn't have to be that point guard. Because at this point, they still really don't have a point guard. I wouldn't consider Patrick Beverly a point guard to run a team. I consider him off the bench, come put a light of fire under the team with his hustle. Russell Westbrook, he's a point guard, but more of a 2. He doesn't really facilitate that much. And again, you got to have shooters around LeBron. So really hoping Russ Westbrook gets off this team, man, to be real with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jay, let's keep it pushing and let's get to the Nets, Jay. Kevin Durant staying in Brooklyn. I mean, this guy is just full of drama. That team is just full of drama. But talk to me, Jay, how are you feeling about them? I know every time you have a player like Kevin Durant, you obviously have a chance, but are they really contenders against a Bucks, a Celtics? How are you feeling?
That's so, yeah, it's so dependent on if number one, Kyrie and KD. This is another team, and Ben Simmons as well. This is another team that just when their guys are playing, when those three guys are playing, like we haven't seen Ben Simmons play basketball in 2 years though, but if those guys are playing, they have a chance, right? They really have a chance to compete and be at the top of the East because I just simply think the greatness of those two guys, especially KD, for all the things. I won't even say if necessarily he's creating the drama, but all the things that are surrounding him. You know, media also makes up narratives and stuff to fit a certain thing, but he's involved in it one way or another with his doing with him knowingly or unknowingly being a part of that. But I think when he's at his best and he's playing basketball, he's extremely hard to stop. One of the best, if not the best in the game, to be honest. So I think if he's playing and Kyrie are playing basketball, they simply have a chance to be a force to be reckoned with, a top 4 seed in the East. And then not to mention Joe Harris is most likely going to be coming back, who's an offensive weapon and a capable defender that they missed oh so greatly last year during the season after his ankle injury. And then I like the addition by subtraction, basically, of Patty Mills coming back, who they have. And then I think Ben Simmons, for all his drama that surrounds him, having him in that lineup, Jay, is going to be huge for them. He's a guy who's going to probably be playing some on ball, some off ball. If he's in the dunker spot and he's willing to be there, cut, move without the ball, and KD takes on that playmaking role, Jay. I just simply think that the Nets can be great. And I will add that Steve Nash is definitely on the hot seat. I think Joe Tsai, he's not willing to admit it, but I think it's kind of obvious at this point he wasn't the right guy for the job, but he's going to be on the hot seat. If the Nets get off to a poor start and they're not, one of the top teams, at least winning basketball games at the start of the season, I think Steve Nash is gone, and they're going to bring in a coach who knows how to win games and has a proven track record. I think that's kind of one of the only faults they got right now, Jay. But what are you thinking about the Nets and KD returning ultimately all this, and it's just a return?
Man, Jay, I mean, I think you summed it up perfect, Jay. When you have talents like KD and Kyrie on the court together, you got a shot. You got a chance. It's kind of like how you mentioned with that, LeBron and AD thing. You just got a chance. Like, there's just two great players. But I don't know when I look at up and down that roster, I don't see like I know they also brought in TJ Warren, and they got TJ Warren, Joe Harris. So I just don't really see how it's going to work out. Ben Simmons is going to absolutely have to play in that dunker spot. I hope that the world has now caught up to speed and realize that Ben Simmons is not a point guard. He may be able to dribble the ball, but he's not Magic Johnson. Like, he just can't do it. And that's not what he is. He needs to play more of that, just be the defender and being there at that dunker spot. But ultimately, Jay, if it came down to it, I would not have the Nets beating the Celtics in the 7-game series, especially now the Celtics have experience. My brother, you always talk about scar tissue. The Celtics just got one of the biggest scar tissues. They got one of the biggest lessons of their life, losing to a great dynasty like the Warriors, who built that scar tissue. The Bucks, I don't have the Nets being able to beat out the Bucks. 76ers, it may get tough, man. It fully depends on what James Harden we're going to see. James Harden is arguably one of the best pick and roll players. Joel Embiid, one of the best pick and roll rollers. So you match them up, and you match up players like PJ Tucker. Shout out PJ Tucker getting the bag at 37. But players who kind of are glue guys that are going to do it all. Your guy Tyrese Maxey, we don't know what kind of jump he's going to take this year. Last year he was definitely it's caught a lot of people by surprise. Not you. I'm not gonna lie. You did call it. You did call Tyrese Maxey and his come up, man. But I just don't. The Nets may be a top 5 seed, but what I always say when I talk about Gobert, it's like, you could be the greatest regular season team, but if you're not competing for championships, like, what are you doing, right? You're just kind of wasting time. So we're gonna see with the Nets, man. But me personally have a strong disliking for that team. Strong
Yeah.
disliking, man. Bunch of prima donnas. That's all I got for them. But all right, Jay. So let's keep it pushing, Jay. Let's talk about the other team over here in LA, and that's the Clippers. Getting John Wall via free agency, which is perfect. Like absolutely best team you could have put him on. The Clippers are going to be scary, scary, scary this next season. My only concern is at that center position. I still think they are only running Zubac, which when you pair up against other bigs in the league, I think he's going to get dominated in 8. But with a two-way player like Paul George, two-way player like Kawhi, freaking Leonard, and then John Wall, who's got a lot to prove, man. He's got a lot to prove coming back. I think the Clippers are a scary team, and don't let me forget about Robert Covington and the autumn glue pieces. But unfortunately, Jay, I gotta admit it as a Lakers fan, I think this next season is gonna the LA is gonna be Clipper town for this next season unless AD can bring it. Unless AD could bring it and he could be that 2020 AD. Then unfortunately, I think it might be LA, it might be Clippers land this next season. To be real with you,
Wow.
I gotta be
You're
honest, Jay.
anointing. You're
I gotta be
anointing
honest.
the clip. I'm really not too. I'm not really ready to anoint them the Kings of LA yet because and it's a few things, few reasons why. I think that number one, we haven't seen a healthy Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, unfortunately, for such a long time. So it's contingent upon their health. And another fact is we haven't really seen John Wall play and be healthy for 4 years, man. This dude's been in and out of basketball. Yeah. And yes, he could have played last year, but he still didn't go through a whole season of playing NBA basketball and then was injured for the season, for majority of the season the year before that. And then was out, I believe, when he was with the Wizards
Rocket.
for a whole
Yeah.
season. Yeah, the Wizards before he went to Houston. So that I do expect him. We've seen all the offseason video workouts, the Rico Hine runs, playing all this. He's looking good because he
Looking
has
good.
fresh legs. And I do think he's gonna start the season out hot. The first 23, 25 games, there's gonna be the noise of John Wall's really back. He's here to stay. And I think it might just be one of those things. The dude's got fresh legs. Where we're gonna start to see him maybe struggle a bit is after he's got, they're 25, 20 games deep into the season, right around November, December. And those wheels are going to be getting the air might be coming out of the tires a little bit for John Wall. So he might start struggling, but I do expect the Clippers to come out hot. But I'm worried about the track record that we've seen of the stars of PG, Kawhi, and then even so, Robert Covington, man, people hype him up to be such a dynamic role player and everything. And even the statistics might point to him being that. But as much as stats, Jay, I'm an eye test guy. We're all eye test guys, and we know that stats don't always tell the whole picture. When I see Robert Covington on the floor, I'm not blown away by how great of a role player he is. I think he definitely has his deficiencies on the basketball floor, so I'm not completely sold on him as a floor. But I do love Norman Powell off the bench. I love Nicholas Batum, Reggie Jackson will be most likely coming off the bench unless they're pairing those two in the backcourt of Wall and Jackson. So they got a lot of weapons, man. I even think of Vita Zubac, as you mentioned, he's grown and developed as a player ever since he's been in LA. Shout out our guy, Coach Chad Bell, LA Clippers player development coach who we had on the show most recently in our last episode. If you haven't had a chance to check out that episode, go check it out. But he's been working with him, and it's clear and it shows because Zubac's game has progressed, and he's a solid, nothing great, nothing spectacular, and definitely not bad, but just an average, good starting caliber center in a for a competing team in the NBA. And I think that's all you need if you're the Clippers. You need from that position. He doesn't do too much. He knows his role, and that's what you need on a contending team. And Ty Lue, Jay, I think he's one of an underrated and one of the better coaches in the NBA. So they have that on their side. With all that being said, Jay, the health, the question marks, John Wall hasn't really played basketball in about 2-3 years. And the role players, I think all of those are question marks, but they should be a good, solid top 4, top 3 seed in the regular season this season, but still question marks, and I'm not completely sold on them, Jay.
And that's why, you know what I'm saying? Because I know probably, Junior and my Lakers fans out there like, dang, John, you just switching up like that now. Yeah. I'm not. It ain't even a switch up. I just don't think realistically that. I mean, unless I see a different AD, I gotta go off what I've seen last season, and unless I see a 2020 AD, I don't know if the Lakers are, like how you said, going to be able to be a top 3 seed. If the Clippers pan out, because I hear what you're saying on John Wall, and I definitely do have my concerns on him, but I think players like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, I'm not saying that they're the same level of Kevin Durant. So people relax. I'm not saying Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are the same level of Kevin Durant, but I think that they're at the same superstardom to where they can come back. They're going to come back from these injuries, and they're going to be, I think, may get a slow start to the season and maybe like 80-70% of what they were, but I think that they're going to be able to make a huge, a huge comeback and be at least, 95 to 99% of, what they really were. And I really do like how you mentioned their role players. And I honestly forgot about Reggie Jackson, to be honest. He really carried that team last season. So to have him paired up with Kawhi, with Paul George coming back, Norman Powell, also forgot about him. He's a huge off the bench
Terrence
player.
Mann, solid
Terrence
too.
Mann, yeah. Honestly, Jay,
yeah, they got a solid bench. The Clippers, they're solid.
The Clippers are solid, Jay. That's why
they got a solid roster.
I think they even still got Marcus Morris too. So
saying all these players.
Oh man, Jay, I'm low key getting scared as a Laker fan.
The Clippers are very deep, and y'all see them. I think the second night of the season, or maybe the 2 nights in the season. I know you see them early in the season there, but
yeah, man,
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see that. It's gonna be interesting to see
early
on in the season how those 2 teams fare. But yeah, the Clippers are a very good roster for sure.
Man, all right, Jay. So let's go ahead, keep it pushing. We touched on this a little bit for the Celtics. They were able to acquire Malcolm Brogdon, which I think is great. It's exactly what they needed. I think they needed a point guard to kind of calm the team down at times. At times, we talk about Marcus Smart being not really much of a point guard to run a team, kind of remind me more of a Patrick Beverly, but I'd say a little bit better on the offensive end. And Malcolm Brogdon now can be that player to run the team when they're kind of feeling chaos and they're just like, Jason Tatum, go do something. Jaylen Brown, go do something. Malcolm Brogdon now can be that player to set the offense up and get them going, which is great. But they did lose Danilo Gallinari, man, which hurts very bad. I know Danilo Gallinari is old. But I know he's old, but he's one of them pieces that he knows how to score. He knows how to put the ball in the basket, and I think that's definitely gonna hurt him a bit. I'm super upset to see these players like him, Czech Holmgren getting hurt in like off-season things, man. Like these like the FIBA qualifying World Cup, these like Euro baskets or these Pro AM games. And I mean, we talk about this off the phone, Jay, but we talk about this off camera on the phone one day. But I just think that, in a couple of years, there's not going to be none of these little off-season games, Jay, because people are getting hurt, and it's not it, man. It's just not it.
Yeah, I think I thought about it more after we talked, Jay, and I actually kind of took a step back though, because I said, yes, they're playing all these games, yes, they're playing like the pro-am and stuff, but if you're not getting hurt there, obviously you never want a guy to get hurt or to stay healthy, but you could get hurt in training. You could get hurt in a pickup game, and it's not like you're not going to be playing, right? You got to get runs in. and get those game type of situations anyway. So I think it's just naturally going to happen. Unfortunately, like injuries in the off season are just always going to be a thing, whether it's getting hurt and European, like for Danilo Gallinari was playing overseas with the Italian national team, or it's getting hurt in the open gym. You take a weird angle in a training session. So I think I love the offseason, all these pro games, and I just think just injuries are just always going to happen, regardless of it's in a pickup game or thing. So I took it back, Jay. I took back what we were saying, and I said just injuries are just always going to be a part of the game, no matter, and kind of unavoidable, whether it's in a pickup game, a pro-am, or anything, man. And maybe don't try to contest LeBron next time he's driving through the nah,
For real,
nah. I
not
mean, that was
joke.
just an unfortunate situation. I mean, you got a dude 250 or whatever LeBron is coming at you, man. You're not gonna back down because it's just naturally as a basketball player, you're locked in on the game and you're not thinking this is a summer league game, right? So just unfortunate freak accident, freak injury, man. But always a part of the game, unfortunately.
Man, that's what comes with the game. But yeah, Jay. I
Casualty
feel,
of the game.
yeah, that's what it come with, man. But yeah, Jay. So let's go ahead and keep it pushing. Hawks, we talked about this a little bit as well. They got DeJounte Murray. Does that really make him a contender, though, Jay? I don't. To me, it doesn't. To
Mm,
me, it doesn't. He needs the
I think it
ball.
makes him maybe a top. I don't even know if it makes it better than Cleveland now. You look at that deal, and how what they got. I think both are throughout their career they've been ball dominant guards. So one of them is going to need to take its back seat. Trae Young has talked about being willing to play off the ball and let DeJounte Murray run the show, which he's been accustomed to doing in San Antonio throughout his whole career. So I don't know. One of them's gonna have to take a seat. So, but to answer your question, I don't see it taking them any further than they have been or will be, and pushing them anywhere past like a fifth, sixth seed in the East. Because as we've been talking about, all the teams we listed up talking about earlier with the Cavs, I don't think it makes them better team than any of those, like even like the Brooklyns, the Bostons, the
Sixers,
Phillies,
yeah.
Miami. I don't think it makes it better than them because we
Toronto,
know
I
they're
don't. Toronto's going to make a
Toronto.
big
I
jump.
don't think it. I don't think it makes it better than them. So yeah, they're right on the cusp of being a 60, man. I don't even. I might give them the nod of not being in the play-in, but other than that, I don't
I gotta
think.
see it. I gotta see it, Jay.
Yeah.
On paper, I don't see how it's gonna work. I gotta see it. Trae Young is an extremely ball dominant player. DeJounte Murray is an extremely ball dominant player. I gotta see it, man. So I'm right there
Mhm.
with you, Jay. Let's keep it pushing, Jay, to one of my, but at least last season, one of my second teams was the Chicago Bulls, Jay. They didn't do what they really needed to do. They needed a real big that can. They needed a Christian Wood. That's what they needed, in my opinion. But they ended up getting Andre Drummond from free agency, which is not bad, but definitely better than Tristan Thompson. And then I love I even texted you this day. I love their rookie Dalen Terry. He's an 18th pick. I've been watching a lot of Rico Hines. He's nasty. But then again, the NBA, Rico Hines, two totally different worlds. But Jay, talking about the Bulls, does this make them any more of a contender, or are they kind of the same place they were last season?
I think it makes them a little better. I think they're just naturally going to be better because of Lonzo Ball. We hope that he's healthy and he's able to withstand the wear and tear of an NBA season, because he's had a rough go of it, especially early on in his career, of staying healthy. But adding him defensively to that backcourt, when he's paired up with Alex Caruso, and then with DeMar, obviously he took a huge step forward in his when his career after he left San Antonio and came to the Chicago and had historic career year last year. And then you pair him with Zach LaVine. I think just having those backcourt and that backcourt healthy is going to be huge. But Andre Drummond, it does help because they just got bullied and abused by Milwaukee and had no answer for the big men and of Giannis, and we're just had no answer in the paint. So I think it does help with them. He's not a starting caliber big in the NBA, but definitely a solid backup. So I do like the addition of it. I still don't think it addresses the problem of them fully having a rim protector, Jay, but I think it's a little better of an upgrade. I don't know how much better it makes them, but I will say for Chicago, a lot of their questions could be answered on the development of one. I'm blanking on his name, right? Patrick Williams. If he takes a step offensively, because we've seen the capability of him defensively, but if he can take a step and become more of a consistent shooter, an outside shooter, a guy who has a Kawhi-esque sort of game. We're not comparing the two, but similar game. But if he can take a step, that would be huge for the Bulls and it would make them more of a formidable borderline contender in the East. And they could potentially sneak into, being like a fourth or fifth seed, and then maybe taking down like a team like the Sixers in a first round, right? If they're able to get like a higher seed, right? And they can take down and upset a higher seed like that. So it's contingent, really, I will say, upon the development of Patrick Williams, which is weird to say because you know what you're going to get at this point from Zach Williams, right? Zach LaVine. He's a capable scorer, capable shooter. DeMar DeRozan, we know what he is at this point in his career, certified like mid-range elite scorer, right? And then Vucevic, kind of a down year to begin the year and then pick things back up. So I think the Bulls are going to be a little better if everyone's able to stay healthy, which is hard to say in an 82-game regular season schedule. But for the majority of the season, I think the Bulls will be a little bit of a better team. And then if Patrick Williams is able to take that jump, Jay, they could be a formidable, bad first-round matchup for like a higher seed because I think they're like 4-5 seed range right now as it sits, in my opinion. What about you, Jay?
Man, Jay, I can't describe it any better than that, Jay. You just broke down the Bulls, what they needed, and exactly what it is that happened and will happen. And I'm right there with you with everything that you said, Jay. I kind of honestly low-key forgot about how much they got beat up by the Bulls by the Bucks last season. I'm not gonna lie. Mm-hmm. So that Andre Drummond does bring me a little bit more like safety to him because that's a big dude. He's a big guy.
Yeah,
he's not gonna go for none, but he also can't. He also not gonna be able to keep up with the speed of a Giannis. Be able to keep up with the speed of like that. So not the answer, but also like the Walmart version of the answer.
Mm-hmm.
The knockoff answer.
Yeah. And Jay, they were a DeMar DeRozan historic game 2 in Milwaukee away from getting swept, honestly. Man. So this will make them a little bit of a better, like that's why I said like you could take 1-2 games off of Milwaukee. Hopefully they don't play them in the first round. You want to be a higher seed because I anticipate Milwaukee being like a 1-2 seed at the lowest this season. So the Bulls are looking up, I would say, but not too much up from last year. And they started out hot last year, right?
They did start out hot, man. I'm right there with you, brother. So let's go ahead and keep it pushing. Let me get to the next move, and this has hands down been a sleeper for me. One of my favorite moves is for the Mavs, man. They got Christian Wood. I think it's going to be a huge difference maker. Luka, he was really running pick and rolls with Maxi Kleber and getting it done and torching teams. But now he's going to be running pick and roll with Christian Wood, who can catch the lob, who can shoot the pick and pop. I think it's going to be great. I'm very happy for Luka to have that good pick and roll partner. And then they also picked up JaVale in free agency, which JaVale is not a huge needle mover, but as a Warriors fan and as a Lakers fan, we know JaVale gets it done off the bench. He come in, do the gritty work, do the little things, catch those really high up lobs. Cause he's a 7-footer who's got some bounce, man. So great defender off the bench center. I love that move for the Mavs. And I think that's going to be a huge difference maker for just giving Luka that partner. Well, how you feeling about the Mavs, Eric?
Yeah, I like this move. Maybe not as much as you with Christian Wood because really had his ups and downs, and he hasn't been a proven winner, right? He's lost everywhere he's been in his career. So is he gonna make the Mavericks that much better? Just off his track record, you have to say no. But I do on the counter to that, he is paired with Luka Doncic, so maybe he could, like you said, Jay, Luka, your boy, could unlock him a bit, right? And that's what you're hoping. Mark Cuban's hoping. Jason Kidd, another great mentor. We saw him bring the best out of a lot of players. We saw him bring the best out of Luka, honestly, best season of his career last year, and take this team that no one had foreseen making the Western Conference Finals. So a best situation for Christian Wood. He's coming to a winner because that's what they are. We can't take it away from them. This team did make the Western Conference Finals last season. Fluke or not, whether you think it or not, they were in the Western Conference Finals. So anytime you can get an addition like that, that's big. And then, like you said, JaVale McGee, Jay, we know proven champion, two-time champion with the Lakers and the Warriors, but he's a guy who got his bag. So I'm happy for the dude JaVale securing his bag, especially journeyman career he's had. And I also think he has a chance. It's probably going to sound crazy, but I think he has a chance to come in day one and be the starter because Christian Wood, while he has played the 5 in his career, I think he's better as a 4 and having the versatility that way. And he struggled sometimes with foul trouble throughout his career. And I think it puts him as a kind of a disadvantage because if you're banging defensively with a 5 and taking all those bumping and bruising on the defensive end, it might take away from the offensively what Christian Wood is capable of doing because he's not the biggest guy, right? He's more of a finesse and athletic kind of player and skilled player. So if you put in JaVale McGee and you have him, even if he's playing only 24, 25 minutes, and then you're getting a guy like Maxi Kleber, who you mentioned, getting your other guys in there, Dwight Powell, who was more of just a spot starter, because then they would get him Maxi Kleber right away. He'd pay 4 minutes, and then he's subbing in and acted more of a 6-man anyway. So I'm going to say JaVale McGee day one, Jay. I think he's going to be the starter for the Mavericks. Bold prediction right now. Okay. Maybe not bold, but I just think that's going to be the situation.
Absolutely.
Especially at the price point that he's getting. At the price, they're paying him as a starting center.
Man.
My opinion.
JaVale McGee, remember back when he was on Jackson all the time. Man.
Yep.
Definitely shout
Come
out.
Come a long way since then.
Came a long way. Facts, Jay. I was about to say that. Shout out JaVale. And then Jay, for this next team, I personally really don't have too much to say for the Pistons. I just want to give a quick shout out because I just feel like, man, like Kevin Knox, I've liked him since high school. I feel like he's been given up on. Marvin Bagley, the Kings are just a terrible organization. So like they just didn't even really give him a chance. So I love the fact that the Pistons are now giving these guys a chance. But besides that, I just kind of wanted to mention that I think Marvin Bagley still can pan out to be a great player in this league, young guy. I don't know if you got anything to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think situation is definitely looking up in Detroit. They got young talent. I think the backcourt I loved, as we talked about earlier on our last NBA episode we did, and Jaden Ivey, love that backcourt. I think it's going to be cold. I like Jalen Duran and the rest of the young core. Obviously, Sadiq Bey took a huge step last year. So yeah, things are looking up in Detroit, and I do like the fact that Kevin Knox and Marvin Bagley, guys who have been up and down careers, high draft picks who haven't really panned out, are getting an opportunity. And it's a good, because it really fits the timeline, like you mentioned, of being a younger team, growing together, the growing pains. So it's going to be exciting to see what they can do in Detroit, Jay.
Man, Jay, I'm right there with you, my brother. But let's get to the next team, Jay. Let's get to the next team, and that is your Golden State Warriors, Jay. They brought in Dante DiVincenzo, which is a perfect move. Just one of those, like, one of those things that's like, man, this happened. I didn't know I needed this. You know what I'm saying? Type stuff. And I think that's going to work out amazing. Spot up. You could be a spot up shooter. You could be that guard. You could give Clay, break at times. And they also bring in JaMychal Green, also a big that can fit the system. I would think to him, he's like a better Bielitsa, like a way better Bielitsa. I love Bielitsa a lot last year, but I think JaMychal Green's going to come right in, fit into the system, and the Warriors are really going to again, be a top contender, and honestly, arguably for doubling back this year. But Jay, talk to me about how you feeling about your Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I love the signing of the big ragu, aka White Chocolate, aka Dante DiVincenzo. I think that's a great signing. Dude's a proven winner. He won in college. He won in with Milwaukee, although he wasn't a part of that playoff run when they won the title in 2020. But 2021. But he was a huge part of what they did, kind of an off guard and off ball player with Giannis kind of running the show sometimes, but he was a huge part of what they did in the regular season. But I think they're able to get him at a discount because of his injury track record. But a dude I think who's really going to thrive in this system because he doesn't need the ball. He has that Villanova mentality of just working, playing hard, being a system, knows what it takes to play in a system. And he shoots 35% from the field and 33% from the 3-point line for his career. 41% from the field goal line, and 34% from the 3-point line on his career. But I think those numbers are only going to go up, right? He might be close to 40% because he's going to have a lot more time on a shot. And where he also thrives, Jay, is cutting and moving without the ball. Like I was able to look at some of his film and how he scores. And what better team to thrive with than the Warriors, a team who prides themselves on that back cuts, moving without the ball because of their leader, Stephen Curry, Jay. And then JaMychal Green, I think, is a good pickup, a guy that they need to. I don't think he's as good as Otto Porter, but he's kind of like in between of what Gary Payton and they lost there and Otto Porter. So it's a guy that they needed to sign. And I love his versatility and the dog mentality he has, Jay. But I don't know about the Warriors, and we're not going to get too much into the regular season and predictions and stuff because we'll do that obviously later as the season, which we're actually 25 days out from the Warriors first preseason game, right? And Japan against the Wizards, Jay. So we're less than a month away from the NBA season, Jay. But one thing I have to say is I think the Warriors may take a step back in the regular season just simply off the fact that they're going to really be integrating and putting more prowess on Moses Moody, who I think is the most ready of these three players that I'm about to mention. But Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, and James Wiseman, they're going to be leaning more on those young guys and also integrating Dante DiVincenzo, who I think is a quick plug-in guy. I don't think it's going to take much integration. But those three guys, Jay, there's going to be a growing process, and with growing sometimes comes growing pains. So I don't know if they're going to come off to a hot start like they did last year, because I think that it's going to take a bit of an adjustment. And I think those guys are going to get close to 25 minutes a game and get more rotation minutes because Otto Porter is not there. Gary Payton's not there. Nemanja Bjelica is not there, who was in and out of the rotation, but he's still not there. And those are going to be Wiseman's minutes. So I think they're going to take a step back in the regular season, Jay, like a 3-4 seed. But they're ready. They're worried about the playoffs and having the guys ready for that. But that's my initial thoughts on the Warriors, Jay.
Man, we know what they do come playoffs, Jay. It's a bit kind of like how we were talking last season. I don't know if it was on camera or off camera. You mentioned to me that the Warriors weren't really as worried as getting that number one seed, and the Suns kind of went berserk and were regular season champions. But if you're not going for that title, What are you doing? So yeah, I mean, the rich got richer, Jay. The champs, you know what I'm saying? Can't nobody deny that. The champs this year, this last season, they just got richer with Dante DiVincenzo and Jermichael Green.
Mhm.
Man, all right, for sure.
Yeah, sneaky. Yeah, sneaky pickup for sure.
For sure, man. All right, Jason. Well, while we're talking about the Warriors, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say that it's their enemies, but little bro. I'd say little bro. I'd say
little bro for now. Definitely
little bro for now. Absolutely little bro for now. Let's get to the Grizzlies, Jay. Not no big splashes, but they did get Danny Green free agency. I think that's just a great veteran player. I mean, they're a little bro because they're young, you know, and they haven't beat the Warriors yet, but they're also just extremely young team. And a lot of people talk about the Grizzlies last season with they're playing with house money. Oh, they're just there. They're these young cats. They don't even know what they're getting themselves into. I think a player like Danny Green, a proven winner, I think he's a 3-time champion actually. So he can absolutely bring a lot of just calm and ease in a situation like that. But Danny Green, I think as a player is not what he used to be.
Yeah, and we won't get into it too much now. Oh yeah, Danny Green, good pickup, probably out for the season though, obviously with this ACL tear. But last season in playoffs, unfortunately, because of Joel Embiid and it flailing and flopping all over the place, getting his teammates injured. But I will say with the Grizzlies, those are my early step back candidates. Because of Jaren Jackson. He's a huge part of what they do on the defensive end, offensive end with his weird shot that just somehow finds a way to go in from the 3-point line and his ability to stretch the floor. But I think him being out, Jay, is going to be a huge miss and a huge absence for the Grizzlies. And I think early on, while he's out to start the season with his foot injury, I think that the Grizzlies aren't going to be as successful. Ultimately, they got Tyus Jones, who they signed back. But Jay, we've seen this team with Ja Morant be successful out. But in the regular season, I think they might miss Jaren Jackson more than they miss Ja Morant. That might be a wild thing to say, but we've seen that what Jaren Jackson and his ability to protect the rim, and his ability to stretch the floor as a big man does for this Grizzlies team. And they struggle ultimately when he's off the floor and gets into foul trouble. So I think that's going to be my early step back candidates for the Grizzlies.
I like that, Jay. I'm not gonna lie. I feel what you're saying. Yes, Ja Morant is the best player on that team, hands down. Mm-hmm. There's no debate about it. But with a backup player like Tyus Jones, and with what they can do, they can replace, they can emulate what Ja Morant brings, but they can't replace what Triple J brings. So I feel you on that point, my brother.
Yeah, and DeAnthony Melton, I think that was a huge loss. He was so big for them in the playoffs and throughout the season too. And I can't forget about him, DeAnthony Melton. Huge loss for the Grizzlies and a huge pickup for the Sixers.
Drew League champion. League champion. So shout out DeAnthony. But all right, Jay, let's go ahead and keep it pushing to the Timberwolves. You know, we touched on this a bit. They had that haul of a trade. The Timberwolves ended up getting Rudy Gobert. The Jazz got some of these players already been moved around since then. The Jazz ended up getting Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Walker Kessler, which was the 22nd pick in this 2022 draft, Jared Vanderbilt, 5 first-round picks. I still, I now it makes a little more sense because now I clearly see that the Jazz are tanking. But from the Timberwolves perspective, I need to see it work, man. Yes, Cat can play that 4, but is Cat gonna keep up with these players on the perimeter? Like, what are they gonna do when teams go extremely small? And I understand they're gonna try to go extremely big. I get it, but when you get pulled out by a team I kind of think, no team has done it since then, but that prime time Warriors, and when they really started and initiated the small ball, what if a team pull something like that out the bag. I don't know that Cat is going to be able to keep up with those players in the perimeter, and I think that's ultimately going to lead to exactly what was happening in Utah. Players keep getting
Mhm.
blown by, and then it's just up to Rudy Gobert to save the day, save the day, save the day. And I really don't see how it's going to work. I'm expecting D'Lo to take a huge jump. I want D'Lo to take a huge jump this year. The excuses on excuses on excuses for that guy. So I need him to definitely be consistent. But as far as Rudy Gobert, Jay, I'm feeling low key like that Hawks thing. I need to see it. I need to see it, man, because right now on paper, I don't see how it's going to work. To be honest, how you feeling about that, Jay?
Yeah, I think it's really going to be a matter of how the adjustments made for the Timberwolves. I don't think it makes them that much better. I think they will be a better regular season team than a playoff team, though, because Rudy Gobert, we've seen how effective and dominant he is in the playoffs, or excuse me, in the regular season, and how ineffective and how he gets played off the floor in the playoffs. So in the regular season, I think the Timberwolves are going to be great because they have the two twin towers and they have defensively, they're going to funnel guys into Rudy Gobert, like you said. But it's going to, I think, just in the postseason, it's going to get exposed. So it's going to be a problem for them. And I do think you talk about sneaky differences in players. I love Jared Vanderbilt, man. His ability to affect the game without scoring, rebounding, defensively, diving on loose balls, making those 50-50 plays. So I think they're going to miss him. They're going to miss Patrick Beverly and his defensive prowess and his ability to affect the game in multiple ways, both offensively, defensively, and knock down open shots. So addition by subtraction, Jay, sometimes, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case for the Timberwolves. But I think they'll have a better regular season than playoffs. They honestly might even be like a one and done situation like they were last year. I don't know if they're going to be any better than that, depending on what seed they get. But I do look for Anthony Edwards to take a serious leap in his third season in NBA. I'm expecting a breakout all-star campaign from him.
Yeah, he's got to be the guy on that team for that team to go. And yeah, I love what you said, Jay, about the playoffs. And ultimately, it's like I always say, if you're not competing for your championship, what are you doing, man? So let's go ahead and keep it pushing and get to the New York Knicks, another team that just makes silly moves on silly moves. They ended up signing Jalen Brunson to that 4-year, $104 million contract. In my opinion, it's not going to work. I said this when we were talking about where's Jalen Brunson going to go and is he going to get this bag? Like he should have stayed in the Mavs. The Mavs, should have definitely paid him. But the focal point, like a 6'1" guard, it's not going to work in the playoffs, man. It's not going to work when they start trapping you. When you start getting traps with these 6'6", 6'4" players coming all over you, it's just. I don't think that's going to work out. Also, the Knicks just are all types of different directions. Last year, they were committed on Julius Randle being the guy and him taking over the team. And then he had his struggles. And then now they're just switching up this year to Jalen Brunson. What's going to happen with that? RJ Barrett definitely is going to want his shine, going to want his shots. But with Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, I don't see it. I don't see it working out. So that's why I think it was a silly move for the Knicks to make Jalen Brunson the guy. I don't think they're going to really be any better than they were last year. Maybe get off to a hot start, but at the end of the season, gonna end up same place. How you feeling about that, Jay?
Yeah, I just got to double back on if you're not what you said about if you're not competing for a championship, then what are you doing? I will say that's somewhat true, but not really true in my opinion, because there's 30 teams in the NBA. Only one team can win a title. And I think some teams like the Timberwolves, who barely had any success, haven't made the playoffs since, I believe, before last year was like 2000. They made it in 2016, and then before that, it was like 2004 or something.
That's why
some
Patrick
real
Beverly
long
was
playoff.
so lit.
Yeah, right. So it was it was a long playoff drought, right? So I think for some teams like that, you're just paying for relevancy, and you want to have some consistently of making the playoffs and being somewhat in the mix of being a contender, but not really a contender, right? Because I think for some franchises that's enough, right? They got a new owner group in Minnesota, and for the Knicks, I think that's also another team that wants to be relevant, wants to make the playoffs consistently, make a first, second round appearance, because that to them's like a championship in itself for a fan base like that. Because New York, you got to win consistently, right? You got to be in the playoff mix, I think, or the team or the fans, or you're gonna get just crapped on, right? If you're those franchises, there's those owners. So for some teams, it's just being relevant. It's being in the playoff conversation. It's making the playoffs. That's the title for them. And then there's that, you'd say consistently and realistically, probably four or five teams, or probably 4 or 5 teams who legitimately have a legitimate shot of winning an NBA championship every year. And those are the teams with like the top five players in the NBA, and then the rest, they don't really have a chance to win an NBA championship. So it's like half truth, half a little bit to your statement about that. And the Knicks, to answer your question, I know I said some other stuff, but I don't think this deal makes them any better or any contender. Definitely not. But I think it maybe makes them a shot to be like a play-in team, knocking on the door of being like a top 8 seed, top 9 seed with this playing game. So,
got you, man. Yeah, no, for sure with the Knicks. I'll say this with the Timberwolves, you are right about that. At the end of the day, you got to kind of you haven't made the playoffs. You got to get the ball rolling somewhere. So I definitely will give you that. But I just feel like with the Knicks, man, being in such a huge market like that, having a player like Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, now bringing in Jalen Brunson, Cam Reddish. I honestly forgot about Cam Reddish too. Man, I just think you got to go for it, man. I think like in those markets, I think now the Warriors have become a huge market. Like Warriors always got to go for it. Lakers got to go for it. Knicks got to go for it. Bulls should be going for it. Like in my opinion, every single year. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think that the Knicks owner is just okay with being relevant and just barely making that playoffs, which is sad. Which is sad, man. We want to see winners. We want to see winners, but let's go ahead and keep it pushing though, Jay. The 76ers don't got much to say. Shout out my boy PJ Tucker. Yeah, I said it earlier in the pod. Getting his bag, dog. Like 3-year, $33 million at 37. I mean, my guy's gonna be making about like 11 million a year at 40 years old, dog. Shout out PJ Tucker. And then also, I've been watching a lot of Rico Hines, been watching a lot of these offseason runs. I think James Harden is coming back. He's going to look so good this year, man. Again, I know Rico Hines doesn't always translate to the NBA. I actually had to eat my statement a couple of years ago when Marvin Bagley was a rookie. So I was like, no, I saw him playing Rico Hines. He's going to win Rookie of the Year. That clearly didn't pan out. So with James Harden, he is looking good. He's going to be paired up with Joel Embiid. I just want to see if the drive is going to be in him, because that's always been the question on James Harden is the inner motor. You know what I'm saying? Is he going to get it going? And being in a city like Philly, a lot of distractions, man. So let's see if James Harden is going to be able to hone it in. But shout out PJ Tucker. You got anything to add for the 76ers, my brother?
No, I think they're going to be if James Harden's ready to ball out, man, he's looking, like you said, he's looking in shape. If he comes into training camp ready to go, the Sixers have a serious shot to make some noise in the East and definitely be contenders, right? So I want to see more from Joel Embiid, right? I think sometimes he gets let off the hook too easy, right? Especially with James Harden there now. I want to see Joel Embiid make some serious strides, not settle, flop. Yeah, get rid of that flopping, because he literally took out Danny Green, right? Because of all of his antics and staying on the floor. You can't tell me you're that big and you're getting pushed
Yeah.
off the body and trying to sell calls like that. So play straight up, play physical, body through contact. Don't fall over and foul bait and all that. I'll play the game the right way and be and I think that the Sixers can be a force to reckon with. Like I said earlier, PJ Tucker, love the addition of him. DeAnthony Melton was a great addition off the bench. They're going to have at Doc Rivers going to have at his dispose next year. Tyrese Maxey, look for him to take a step in his third year, right? So let's see what Philly can do, man. It's their time. They got to be contenders this year, or you got to start looking for other options, right? They're definitely win now, compete now, got to be title contenders this year if you're Philly.
They gotta be, Jay. Right there
Right.
with you.
I mean, that's all right? You got to be title contenders this year.
It's been too many years of, I feel like, Joel Embiid dominance to not, you talk about the importance of how small that championship window is. I think Joel Embiid is definitely a star player that can be a championship player, but you need to fill him with the right people around him, man. So right there with you, my brother. For this last team, Jay, the Blazers, I need your help on this, Jay. I need your help because honestly, so when they first got Jeremy Grant, I was like, just doesn't move the needle. This doesn't do anything. Like, you just gotta. We saw what Jeremy Grant did when he had his own team. When he was on the Denver Nuggets, oh man, he'd look great as a third option. But when he kind of had his own team on the Pistons, it didn't look great at all. But I'm not gonna lie, Jay. I'm looking at the Blazers roster right here, and I'm not saying they're contenders, but look, Dame. They got Yusuf Nurkic, who came back, who I thought he wasn't going to come back, but he came back. Anthony Simons is going to take a big jump, huge jump. Jeremy Grant, who can, be that role player. Josh Hart, who can absolutely be that knockdown shooter role player. Gary Payton II, we know what he can do. Justice Winslow. But I generally don't know how I feel about him, Jay. Like, how are you feeling about the Blazers? Are they going to be the same letdown, or how are you feeling about this, Jay? I'm a little confused right now, to be honest.
Are you asking in terms of, are they going to be serious contenders or going to be playoff team or playing team?
Are they playing?
Will they be a struggle, Jay?
Will they be a
playing team? Yeah. Playing team. I think that they're going to be a playing team. I don't see them as a solidified top 6 seed in the East and the West next year. It's going to be contingent upon Dame and his willingness to play off ball. And I always give the comparison to Steph, and I say that in the same light as Trae Young too, and their willingness to play off the ball and move without the ball and not always be the point of attack, ball handler and playmaker. Because when those guys, especially being at that size and being a smaller guy in the NBA, if you're willing to move without the ball, especially when you have the shooting capability of like a Trae Young, like a Stephen Curry, like Damian Lillard, then you're just so hard. That's puts so much pressure on the defense because they got to worry about you moving without the ball. And then you have a playmaker and a budding scorer like Anthony Simons to worry about in his prowess on the ball. And then you add into the mix, like you said, Jeremy Grant, who's a great third, kind of fourth option to have offensively. And then is also a great defender too. You add lengthy defender. And then you still have Nurkic and those guys. So to answer your question, I definitely think the Blazers are going to be a lot better team, just strictly off the fact that you hope and you assume that they're going to be healthier this year than they were. It's also their second year under Chauncey Billups, so you have that familiarity between the players and everything. And then they made some good additions. Gary Payton's going to be a great guy to pair with Dame, and his ability to move without the ball, affect the game, play above the rim, guard other teams' best perimeter offensive player. So love the additions. Don't know if it moves the needle that much, but a solid 8, 9, at best, like 6 seed if they really hit on all cylinders. But I would say I'd be comfortable saying they're about an 8-9 seed in our preseason predictions. But we'll see when we
Man,
get
yeah,
there,
we'll
man.
see,
See when
man.
we get there.
We will see
Right,
when we
Jay?
get there, man. Man,
Yeah.
I think that that's a great way for us to go ahead and start to wrap it up here, Jay. I mean, as like how you said, we're 25 days away from the first season, from the first season opener here with the
Preseason,
Warrior,
yeah.
yeah, the preseason opener here with the
Mhm.
Warriors. I'm real excited, Jay. I'm really excited for the season to start. But it was just important for us. We had some of the family hitting us up on Instagram, asking us, can we get some review? Could you talk about this? So that's really the biggest point of this episode. We wanted to talk about all this craziness kind of going on in this offseason so far. And for the family out there, man, know that we got a lot more on the way. Not only do we have tons of players, player interviews, but me and Jay, we about to get season cracking again, get these weekly episodes going, just me and my brother, man. So definitely look forward to that. But my brother Jay, do you got any last words to say before we get out of here, my brother?
No, I know. Yeah, the season's it's so close, so close. We can touch it. I'm ready for it. I think this is gonna be a great year for the NBA. I think it's another one of those seasons you got balance of powers, right? And I think it's one of those ones you really don't know who's gonna win it. There's a lot of moving storylines. I think the trade news is like I said earlier. I don't think it's done. I think there might be one more deal before the season starts, or a few more deals, but let's get it started, man. Let's get it popping. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, get at us there. And also check out merchandise, which we'll be posting about more, but we have that up and live. You can get shirts, you can get hoodies right now, Clutch Talk Apparel. And we're also changing our logo. So be on the lookout for that. And that will be changing as well. So yeah, if you want to tap in with us on merchandise, support the family, we appreciate that too. And we'll be making more announcements about that as well, man. So that's all I gotta say.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. Y'all heard my boy Jay, man. So y'all go ahead and get ready for this fire season content. And for now, that's it. We out of here, y'all. Clutch Talk out.
Peace.